Hello. Let me make sure. Let's see. All right. Um, can anyone hear me? Okay, yes, I can see the microphone is working and Lo is waking up. All right. Let me just fix this. Cool. All right. All right. Hello. Hazel's the only one here because Hazel is a true friend. Um, I apologize for the way that my camera is angled. I wanted to set the camera up in front of my bed, but I wanted to actually make a display behind me. But as you can see, my cat is sleeping, and I just don't have the heart to move her because she's just so cute. But I'm sure at some point she's going to get up. But anyway, hello. I've been wanting to do this for a while, for a number of reasons. But the reason why I finally decided to do it was because, well, yesterday was my birthday, and I was actually telling Grace, my fiance, this a few days ago. But for a very long time growing up, on my birthday eve, the day before my birthday, I would always watch this promotional Resident Evil DVD, which I will get to in a bit. And it was just like this thing that I did. It was like this cute tradition that I had, where I would just watch it and I would get really excited because this was like back in like, I don't know, 2002, 2003. I would just get really excited about like, everything that was upcoming in the series. And, for me personally, that was sort of the golden age of Resident Evil. And I was thinking about that, and it made me really sad because obviously that golden age is over, and all those hopes and dreams that I had for the series, especially regarding that, it never happened. So I get really depressed when I think about that. And I get really depressed in general when it comes to Resident Evil right now because it's just, without trying to make a pun, it seems like Resident Evil is sort of like that zombie that won't die. And I love Resident Evil, but sometimes I do wish it would die because it hurts me more than I have enjoyed it probably in the past 10 years. And that's really sad. It's sad when you love something so much and it just kind of becomes a shell of its former self. Anyone who's ever been in fandom has experienced that, and it's just depressing. But that said, I love Resident Evil with all my heart. It is my number one fandom. It is the reason why I am who I am today. It was sort of the catalyst for everything that I ever became interested in later on in my life. And it taught me so much things about myself, about others. And it's just always going to be that, no matter how much I wish I could stop caring. I always will care, and that's part of the problem. But in order to make myself feel better about the amount of depression I have been in regarding Resident Evil, I thought I would do something that would make me happy, which is showing off my collection and sort of reminiscing on like good years, if you will. So that's what I am going to do. In terms of my collection, I don't collect everything. That was never like my goal growing up. I mainly focused on art books, CDs, guidebooks, comics, and that kind of stuff. Those were sort of what I was most interested in. And especially in sort of 2004, 2005 era, I was really into sort of finding just anything that had Sherry in it. So that was very difficult. So that's sort of what spurred me collecting like guidebooks in different languages, because there'd be like, you know, it'd be like a 500-page guidebook and there'd be like one picture of Sherry in it, and I'd get really excited. So that's sort of what I do in terms of my collection. So I am going to sort of start with the least exciting stuff and kind of go up towards the things that I kind of love the most and what is the rarest and the most valuable. Because I have some stuff that like could get me out of like my lifetime of debt, but I will never ever sell anything that is in this collection. This is sort of my collection of, if there's a fire, grab this shit and run. All right, so I'm going to start with the games themselves, like the physical games. And I guess I'll start with I like spread everything out. I like forgot where I put everything. I'm going to start with, you know, the OGs, the PS1 stuff, which is here. All right, so I have the very original, the 96 PlayStation game with the OG cover. This is very rare now. I don't really know how much it goes for, but this one in particular is very difficult to come by, and this one is in very, very good condition, so I am proud of that. I love the original artwork of the 96 version of Resident Evil. I think it's so cool. That does not look like Chris in any way, shape, or form, but you know, there he is looking like, I don't even know, but there he is. I also have the director's cut of the first game. This one is the greatest hits one. I got this secondhand many, many years later. And it's not as rare, but it's still, it's in very good condition, so I imagine it still would sell for quite a bit of money. This one inside has a promotion for the second game, which is really cool. And since this is like the re-release of it, it's not as cool, but I still really like it. I have most of the games, but we're not really gonna go one by one through all of them, because that's boring. But yeah, I have the second, I have the third. I have the PC rather. I have the PC version of the second game, which I only ever played on the PC like once before I like broke my computer like trying to play it. But this also has some really cool promotional stuff inside, like t-shirts and comics and all the old toys and stuff like that, which is really cool. And this also had 2 discs, like the original PlayStation version. I have the infamous Survivor game, which most people agree is a terrible game, and it is, but I still love it. This was the first in the Gun Survivor series of the games. This game I don't think is worth anything. I'm pretty sure you could still find it on eBay for like $2 because no one liked it. But mine is in very, very good condition, which I am proud of. For some reason, I have like a like burnt copy of the Resident Evil 3 PC. I don't know why. I don't know where this came from. I never owned the Resident Evil 3 on PC, so I don't know what that is. I also have just my very broken Silent Hill 1 game is in here, and it is the case is cracked and everything. As you can see, I did not take as good care of this. I'm like breaking it. Okay. I did not take very good care of this. I just broke And I also have Parasite Eve as well, which is a very, very underrated game and an awesome game. I tend to keep these in like my Resident Evil collection because like they're, you know, sort of similar, and I got into them because of Resident Evil. But moving on to the PlayStation 2 stuff. Let's see. I have the greatest hits of Code Veronica, which was a re-release. I have the original Code Veronica on here. And then I have, let's see. Well, I have Haunting Ground in here too, which is not Resident Evil, but it is in my eyes. That is in here. And then I have both of the Outbreak games in very, very, very good condition. These games are not really worth a lot of money now, but I know that they go for a lot of money for sealed. I love the cover art to both of these games. I think they are so good, especially this one. It is so good. It's so creepy. I love it. I have the Dead Aim, which is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated Resident Evil games ever. This is definitely in my top 10. I love this game so much. It is so good. It is the second in the Gun Survivor series. This one is much, much better than the first one and is overall just very, very good. Great storyline, great characters. The game itself is very, very fun. I have the Steelbook for Resident Evil 4 when it was ported to the PlayStation 2. The Steelbook, this is, I think, probably is like when Steelbooks were just starting to come out. And this Steelbook is just so pretty, and Ada is on the back looking beautiful. I don't think this is that rare, but it is my original. I cherish this a lot because it's very special. And lastly, I have the Gun Survivor 2, which is technically the second Gun Survivor game, but because it wasn't released in America, people consider Dead Aim the second one. This is a very, very, very rare game. It was originally an arcade game in Japan that is first person. It's based off of Code Veronica. It's awesome because we get to see Steve again and Claire, and this game is also really cool because it has Nemesis in it. For some random reason, it's absolutely not canon in any way, shape, or form. But it's awesome, and I cherish this game a lot because my mom got it for my birthday, like in 2005, and I had to mod my PlayStation 2 in order to get it to work. Because obviously this is a Japanese game and it's from another region. So I had to like look up this very intense tutorial online, how to mod my PlayStation 2 so it would play Japanese games, and it worked. And I still have that PlayStation 2 and it still works very well. This game is just awesome, and I love the cover art. I love that Steve is on it. It's so cool. It's just an awesome, fun game that I really cherish having been able to experience, because not a lot of people have. It was released in the UK, but it was never released in North America. So, yes, I love this game. Next up, I have my Gamecube games, which these are my babies. I've talked about it before, but when Resident Evil came to the GameCube, that was officially the start of the golden age of Resident Evil, like just hands down. As soon as this flawless, perfect, amazing game came to the GameCube. That was just the beginning of the series, just absolutely being perfect. And obviously they ported the older games to the GameCube, which is also why it's the golden age, because we got to experience 2 and 3 on the GameCube, very polished, very like just nice and crisp and on one disc, and the loading times are awesome. And yes, these 2 games on the GameCube are worth a lot of money. I've seen them go anywhere from like $80 to like $200. I'm very glad I got these games when I did. They're still in excellent condition, which I'm very happy about. So I have 0, Remake 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica, and 4. The OG 4, the very first time that 4 came out. And I don't actually think this is very rare. It might be partly because Resident Evil 4 ended up being ported so many times that like no one cares. But it means a lot to me that I was able to play Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube when it came out, because if I had been one of those people that only had a PlayStation 2, I would have like been very upset. But we all know Resident Evil 4 got ported to the PS2 anyway, and it was garbage. So there's that. Moving on. I have a very small collection of Wii games. I have obviously Umbrella Chronicles and Darkseid Chronicles, which Darkseid Chronicles is awesome. Umbrella Chronicles not so much. I have the Wii version of Resident Evil 4, which a lot of people like say is the best port, but I strongly disagree. I did not enjoy playing it on the Wii. I was not a Wii girl. I just wasn't. But I also have the Japanese edition of the Wii. I don't know why. I'm assuming I just like saw this at a store and was like, that's cool. I really like the artwork. It's different. So I bought it. I can't play it, and it's still sealed, but here you go. I agree. I don't know. I'm not very good with like, that sort of interactive stuff with games. That I don't want to play games and move my arm around and jump up and down and stuff. And, I like Darkseid Chronicles and Umbrella Chronicles, but my God, those games are a chore to play because of how much it hurts my wrist. It's a lot. And as someone who spent most of their lives on the computer, I definitely have carpal tunnel. So it's just not good for old people like me. I have a little bit of games on the Xbox 360. Of course, the original, I have Resident Evil 5 and the Steelbook. I bought a 360 like a week before Resident Evil 5 came out. That's sort of always been my tradition, is I will buy the new console when the Resident Evil game comes out. So honestly, I really didn't play a lot of games on the 360 except Resident Evil. This is really cool because I have it signed by Wesker's voice actor, DC Douglas. He signed that for me. I won't get into him as a person, but I do like that I have it signed. I also have Revelations and Operation Raccoon City, and of course Resident Evil 6. This was like the special edition of Resident Evil 6 that was released when it was originally released, and for some reason the only special edition was this, which came with it came with Resident Evil 5, it came with Resident Evil 4, and it came with Code Veronica. which is really cool, but I don't know why this was like the only special edition. Because what? Yeah, but there we go. Operation Raccoon City is definitely my guilty pleasure. This game is absolute garbage. Like, this is a garbage game, but it is so fun to play. And what's really cool about this game is because it's like just sort of a nonsense game, and obviously it's completely non-canon. That's why it's so fun, because it's just a garbage pile of nonsense, and it does a great job being a garbage pile. And you get to kill Leon in that game, so we love that. And Sherry and Claire also make an appearance in this game, which for me, obviously, that was everything. But this game is just really cool because it lets you explore so much of Raccoon City in a way that is just so exciting. They use a lot of environments from Outbreak and just kind of reuse them, and it's just awesome. You know, it's like whenever you get to explore Raccoon City, it's great. And obviously that's a huge reason why I love the Outbreak games and why a lot of people love the Outbreak games. But seeing them sort of like polished a little bit for this game was really cool. And also the fact that this game has the clock tower from Resident Evil 3 in it, and the fucking Resident Evil 3 remake does not have the clock tower in it. Please tell me why this game did a better job recreating Resident Evil 3 than the Resident Evil 3 remake. Anyway. Lastly, in terms of my games, I have Xbox One games. I have a problem like rebuying games. So I have I have Zero and the 2001 remake. Obviously, I have Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 because I have a problem. 5 because I have a problem, and then 7, which we don't talk about. So those are all. Oh wait, no. I also have some DS games, which I have Deadly Silence, which is a port technically of the original '96 game, but on the DS, and it's really fun, and it's one of my favorite ports ever because just the fact I can play a Resident Evil game on the DS is really cool, and the fact that you can play the original '96 version is even cooler. And then I also have the Mercenaries 3D, which is not a very good game, but it's kind of fun, just for nonsense. And then I also have the original Revelations, which Revelations was originally released on the DS, which is really cool. But I actually only played Revelations one time on the DS before it got ported to the 360, and I just had a better time playing it on the 360 because it's a very big game, and it kind of deserved to be, on an actual like console and not just, the DS. All right, next up I have some books. I have all of the original S.G. Perry books, and they're all literally in mint condition because I'm insane. I love these books. I think they are really, really great adaptations of the games. I think S.D. Perry did a very great job creating a bigger universe for Resident Evil while also being true to the series themselves. She wrote a few original novels as well, which were like pretty good. She has a weird obsession with Rebecca, which I know a lot of people talk about. I don't get it, but you know, good for her. She wrote novels for 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, and Zero. And Zero is the last one that she wrote. When I was in school, I used to read, like, I read these books to death, and because I was insane, I used to read them like this, and I would not like break the spine. So I would just read them very, very carefully, making sure I never creased the spine at all. And somehow, you know, these books are like 20 years old and I never broke the spine. But fun fact, I used to get made fun of for reading these books. So I would put like a paper cover over the books so people wouldn't know what I was reading, because I was just really tired of being made fun of for reading a fucking Resident Evil book. But yeah, I love these books. They still live up to the games even today, and it's really cool that novels this old, based on the original games, are just so thorough, and you can just tell she had a great time reading these books. And they were translated into many, many different languages. I've always wanted to get the Japanese versions of these books because the artwork is beautiful. And what's really cool about the artwork for the Japanese books is they were actually illustrated by a artist who was actually very well known in Japan for drawing very intense Wesker Report. So that's really cool that she got to do the covers for like the actual official Resident Evil books. Like, that's awesome. Good for her. Moving on to semi less exciting books. I was always very big on collecting the official guidebooks and strategy books. I never really used them that much, except when it came to like the bonus content. I just really liked collecting them because I liked the art and everything, and a lot of these came with posters. And I don't have the posters in them anymore because I put them up on my wall. But I have the 2001 Resident Evil. I have Zero. I have the GameCube port guide for RE2 and 3, which I'm actually not sure if these are just reprints of an original guide, but it came with a poster, so I had to get it. I have the Dead Aim guide, which I'm pretty sure I actually did use when I played Dead Aim for the first time, because I had a very hard time with that game. I have a Haunting Ground guide in here, which is not Resident Evil, but I have the Survivor one, which again is completely untouched, but it has really cool artwork in there. I have the Outbreak 1 and Outbreak File 2 in here, and I used these a lot growing up for all of the bonus content, because there is so much in Outbreak. This actually has a poster folded up in there, but there's Cindy. We love Cindy. I don't know. This one does not have a poster. I have the original GameCube Guidebook, which had a poster in it and I took out. And then I have the Resident Evil 6 one, which I remember getting from the pre-order. And again, it is literally untouched. I don't really think I've ever even opened this. Two of my more cherished guidebooks that I have the very, very original one from the 96 game. And it's so cool. It looks exactly how you would imagine a 96 video game guidebook looking like. It's so cool. It has this insert that has like the maps on it, which is really cool. And on the back side, it has like all of the items in the game, which is so cool. I love shit like this. The guidebooks aren't like nearly as exciting as they were in the day, but it's so cool. I love this guidebook. And I also have one of the original Resident Evil 2 guidebooks as well. And this one is pretty banged up. I was not the original owner of this guidebook, but I'm very glad that I have it. It's cool because on like one side it's Leon's storyline, and then on the back it's Claire, and that's really cool. It also has a few interviews with the director, and it also has lots of artwork, which is really cool. I also have this tiny book, which I think came with the original pre-order of the GameCube Resident Evil 4. It just basically gives you a summary of all the games. But it's very cute, very tiny. I have more guidebooks down here. I have the Code Veronica one. I have another 2001 Resident Evil one, which I remember buying this one specifically for the poster because it had a very like pretty image of Jill on it. This I think is the Resident Evil 4 guidebook for PlayStation 2. So it has a walkthrough for Ada's scenario. So that's cool. And lastly, I have a hardback of a hardcover rather for Resident Evil 5. And I do not know why this is like so like bougie, but it's very cool. It has really awesome bonus content in it. It has like interviews, and it has like behind the scenes stuff. It has really cool information about like the mocap that went into the game, which is really cool. Just awesome artwork for all the characters. And just beautiful, beautiful renders and background concept art and all that kind of stuff. It's so cool. Those are that. And then I also have some of the Japanese art books as well. Here is the Resident Evil 2. This one's also similar to the English one that I have, where you have like Leon's scenario, and then on the back you have Claire's scenario. So that's really cool. I don't know how old this one is. There is actually a poster in it, but I did not take that out because this was the Japanese version, therefore it was like cool and fancy, so I dared not to touch it. But it's cool. I just love how older art books looked back in the day. Let's see. Again, I have a Haunting Ground thing in here. Here is a Japanese version of the Code Veronica guide. Some of these I just kept in the plastic wrap. This is going to sound really lame, but all my books are technically all in like a protective cover, but I took them all off for doing this, I kept some of them on for like the least exciting ones, like this one. And these two books I actually got at a bookstore in New York. They were used, but they're in very good condition. This is the Resident Evil 5 one, which is not that exciting. Basically, mostly just text and stuff, but it's still cool. And same for Resident Evil 6. It's just lots of text. But very pretty, and we can all appreciate that Ada and Sherry are next to each other. Let's see. That is actually it for my guidebooks. So moving on, we have some of the much more exciting stuff that I have. In my collection. They're all basically art books from just mostly like series in general, not so much like on like the games themselves. A lot of this stuff was released for the 10th anniversary. So this was stuff that was coming out in 2006. And in 2006, I had just gotten my very first job. And in my little pathetic teenage brain, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to buy all the Resident Evil stuff I ever wanted that like I couldn't convince my mom to buy for me. So a lot of this stuff corresponds with that time, which I got very lucky that my first job was in 2006, the same year Resident Evil was having its 10th anniversary. So that's cool. This is a DVD / art book called this is the Catalyst book. It's very, very cool. It has extremely high quality pictures of all of the renders, which, back in the day, you didn't have high quality stuff online. So this was really cool to be able to see. And it's from all of the main series games. So you've got Code Veronica, you've got RE2, you've got 3, you've got the 2001 remake, and again, Ada and Sherry sharing a page. We love that. It's just very, very cool stuff. And there is a little DVD in the back that also had some artwork in it. I only put the DVD in once because it was obviously a Japanese region DVD, and my computer, like, when you put like in a different region DVD in your computer, and it's like you can change the region of your DVD player like 4 more times. So I only got to look at it once. This one is also, this was released around the 10th anniversary. It's the Archives book, which is awesome. This is one of my favorite books that they released. It is a very intense summary of the entire series, with a lot of never before seen artwork in it. And for me, being a very huge loser, I freaked out that there was a page dedicated to Sherry. And it has a bunch of artwork. You can see where actually, in this case, when you open the book, it actually goes straight to that because I bent the spine so much scanning it. But yeah, I loved these 2 pieces of art of Sherry. She's so cute. It's just great stuff of her. We love that. And it has all of this stuff with Claire too. All of these awesome concept arts of her that we had never seen before. And what's really cool is, having this and knowing that there was just an insane amount of information about the series in here. It like broke my heart that like I couldn't read it, but amazingly enough, they actually translated the book and released it in America, which is amazing. I never, ever, ever thought that would happen. And this was actually released by Brady Games. They're the ones who used to do a lot of the walkthrough books. One of the very funny things about this is obviously Resident Evil is called Biohazard in Japan. But Biohazard is obviously an occurrence that happens in the series. So the word biohazard, like literally, is used a lot in this guidebook or in this art book. But I'm guessing whoever was translating it didn't understand that the series was called Biohazard, because there's a lot of instances in this book where it's talking about like a biohazard outbreak, but it says like a Resident Evil outbreak, and they're fighting Resident Evil outbreaks, and it's just very funny to me. I'm assuming they probably did like a find and replace on the word biohazard. Only downside about this art book is that the quality of a lot of the art in here was definitely like not very well like scanned, I guess. I don't know if they just like they actually had to scan it from the Japanese one into this one, but like compare that Sherry page to like how they do the layout here. It's just like awful. And a lot of this stuff is actually kind of blurry too, which is unfortunate, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. And I was just really grateful that this book got translated. So that's cool. For some reason, I have a bootleg version of this as well. I don't know where this came from. But it is the same exact book as this one, but really awful, and just all the colors are like incorrect for some reason on here, and it's just not a good time. But I have it. I don't know why. What's another one that's very good? There's also this one, which is a Biohazard Ad Art, which is one of the coolest books that they released, because it is literally a book of all the advertisements through the years. And it has stuff from the very original 96 Resident Evil all the way to 4 and 0. It has Outbreak. It has Dead Aim in here. It has even some stuff from Gun Survivor, which is really, really cool. This book also smells really good. It just smells like really nice, high quality paper. It's got great stuff. This is definitely one of my favorites. I also have this Art of Arts, is what it's called. And this one has a lot of renders as well. It has this great, I'm gonna move this. It has this great artwork of Rebecca on the cover, and like she looks so pretty, and it's just a great piece of art. Great artwork of Ada from Umbrella Chronicles. Look at him. Look at this guy with his little undies. It's great stuff of characters, like minor characters and side characters who normally don't get a lot of spotlight. And Jill looking adorable in her little parka. And this is one of my favorite artworks of Ada. She looks so pretty. Like, it's just so good. And then there's also this piece of art from Umbrella Chronicles as well. That is just so good. And there's some interviews and just a lot of really cool stuff as well. This is the Resident Evil 5 art book, which I actually have in English as well, because they released this in English, and they are actually very similar. And in this case, for the translation, it was not compromised, and it's actually pretty much in the same exact format as the Japanese one. So that's really cool. And we've got just awesome artwork of Sheva. She is one of my favorite characters in the series. And it's so cool to see some of the concept art for her, because she is very underrated. I also have the Resident Evil 6 art book. I don't have the Japanese one of this, just because, like, in this case, you know, they had released the RE5 one, and I was like, well, I'm not going to spend money importing the Japanese one. But obviously, the best part of this is all the Sherry content in here. Oh, my girl. She's so cute. She's so cute. She has great concept art for all the bonus outfits they were going to give her, and unfortunately did not. She's so cute. Look at her. Look at her butt. I also have the D-Generation, which was the first CGI movie. This is actually mostly just a script book. It has the script in it, and it has it in English and Japanese. It has like all the storyboard stuff in here too. So it's not that exciting of a book, but it had Claire on the cover, so obviously I had to get it. Similarly, I have research on Biohazard 2, which this is one of the rarest books in my collection. This book goes anywhere from like $80 to like $200. And I actually found this book in a bookstore, like a used bookstore in New York City. And I think I got it for like $20. But it's all in Japanese, but it's been translated over the years by some very nice people. It just has a lot of great information about the development of the game, interviews with the directors and designers. It's really cool. It has some storyboard stuff in here as well, which is really cool. You know, I think looking at like the development of a game in '98 is just something that's so interesting, because gaming was still, you know, not as respected as it is today. So it's really cool to see how much work obviously went into the game, and how, you know, they were able to, you know, be able to talk about it. So I love this book very much. There's not much of Sherry in here, but there is cute like sketches and stuff of her, which I can appreciate. Tiny little Sherry. We love that. And this is one of my favorite books that I have. This is the artwork for Darkseid Chronicles. And obviously Darkseid Chronicles was very special to fans for a lot of reasons. One being that, you know, we got to see Sherry and Ada and Steve again. But this artwork, this art book in particular, just has some awesome stuff for the characters. all this stuff for Sherry, which like made my head explode when I got this in the mail originally. And again, there is just some beautiful, beautiful artwork of the characters in here. And anyone who knew me in like 2010 knows that this was my icon on like every Resident Evil message board. So when I look at this picture, I still think of that because she's so cute and I just love her. Let's see, moving on to some of my comics. I know at some point I had the Resident Evil 1 comics, but I have no idea what happened to them. I don't know if they're still at like my house or like what, but I don't know where those are. But I do have the original RE2 comics, which I think they came out in like in 98. I don't know for certain about that, but these obviously have been very well loved over the years, but they're still in very good condition considering how old they are. These are American. These are American comics, American artists, writers. The artwork in here is very. Let me give you a good example. The artwork in here is very, classic, sort of 90s comics, very DC, very Marvel. But they're great. I love how Claire is drawn in particular. Like Leon looks great. They all look very, very good. And it has some great ads for original toys and stuff that existed in the time. There's an ad in one of these for some kind of sweepstakes. I think it was like a watch or something, which we love that. I can't find it now, but it's great stuff. I love the artwork of these comics. I think they're really cool. I also have, these are, again, some of my most valuable items in my collection. These are Chinese comics. And I wish I could remember the artist's name, but he did comics he did them for 2, he did them for 3, he did them for Code Veronica, and he did them, I believe, for 0. I don't recall if he did them for the 2001 remake, but I specifically remember seeing the 0 ones on eBay quite a bit back in the day. Unfortunately, I never got them because they were very, very expensive. These comics, they say Biohazard 3, but all of these comics are based on the aftermath of Resident Evil 2. So they're really, really cool. It takes place from the time that they leave Raccoon City to, leading up to Code Veronica and everything, which is really cool. For some reason, I managed to get these on eBay for very, very, very cheap. I'm assuming that however these were listed on eBay was just not something that a lot of people were searching for. But I think I probably got all of these comics for maybe $60 or $80, and I do not know how, because they are worth $60 or $80 each, which is crazy. But the artwork in these are just they are beautiful. They are gorgeous. Seeing Ada look this great in 2000, that was unheard of. It's just crazy. And like Ada looks so good. Leon looks great. Let me see if I can find a page with like the whole gang. Let me see. So here's Cherry and Claire, Leon. They all look just so good. I mean, just the monster artwork is just like unbelievable. Like this stuff is just like crazy gorgeous. One of my favorite facts about these comics is so Leon's name, obviously in the games, is Leon S. Kennedy, and S stands for Scott. But in these comics, for some reason, his middle name is Scoot. So his name in these comics is Leon Scoot Kennedy. I don't know why, but it makes me laugh every time. Sherry looking adorable. Ada looking awesome. And these were never released outside of China, so it's really cool that these exist. And just in general, they're just so cool. But the artist, like I said, who did those comics did the Code Veronica comics. And for some reason, the Code Veronica comics did get released outside of China. So I have the North American editions of those comics, and I would love to have the original Chinese versions, because the artwork or the cover art is much more exciting than these really shitty, just in-game renders of the comics. But the artwork inside is beautiful. We've got Steve, we've got Claire, we've got Alexia and Alfred, we've got the whole gang. I do believe that the artwork was flipped in this, as they tend to do a lot with any sort of adaptation of comics. Yeah, it was definitely flipped, which is unfortunate, but the stuff is it's so pretty. The artwork is just insane. Let's see if I can find a good... Here's Wesker. And there is a brief Resident Evil 1 flashback in here. So we've got Jill and Chris looking great as well. Chris is like a very, traditionally drawn, which I love. I love seeing stuff like that, because he looks that way in Code Veronica. Like, he looks very pretty, like boy band almost, which is really funny, because, Steve also himself looks like Leonardo DiCaprio. So it's just kind of funny to see artists take on that and how they decide to draw them. But one of the things I love about this artist is how like muscular he draws Claire. I think that's really cool. She's not looking like really thin and fragile. She's buff. Like, Claire's like buff in this. It's very nice. I just going to comics. Some of the Other fun things that I used to collect when I was younger was I used to collect a lot of dojins as well, mostly because, like, you know, I was really hungry for Sherry content, and like there wasn't a lot, so I'd buy a lot of RE2 dojins, and I have some gems in here. A lot of them are very, very cute. A lot of them are mostly like humor, just sort of silly like takes on like the stories in the games, but a lot of the times the artwork was so pretty in these. And I'd mostly just go on eBay and like type in like Resident Evil 2 comic, and like stuff like this would pop up, and I knew Sherry would be in there. So, you know, it would be a gamble, but like a lot of times what I did get was worth the money. This one is, let's see if I can get that. This one is one of my favorite ones. It's mostly like a parody of each game, all the way up to 0. And it's just really cute, and the artwork in it is really adorable. And as you can see on the cover is a very cute little picture of Sherry, which I love. Here is a Code Veronica one with both Steve and Claire looking very not like themselves. All very cute. All right, moving on to my music collection. I have some newer stuff, which I will show here because they're not that exciting, but they are also exciting because they're new. Laced Records, I believe, is the company. They started releasing the Resident Evil stuff, Resident Evil soundtracks on vinyl last year, or maybe in 2019, I forget. But they've done all of them. They've done, actually, I don't know if they've done 0, but they've done 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, RE5, RE4, and they're great, but they are very expensive. So I kind of just focused on getting the soundtracks for my favorite games. So I bought the first one, which I will try not to damage because I will start crying on camera if I damage it. There's a beautiful, beautiful illustration of the Arklay mansion inside. This one I believe is the second press of it. So the vinyl is not a special color. It's just black, but I wasn't really that concerned with that for this particular vinyl. Yes, here is the cover. It is beautiful. Here's the back cover, which is even more beautiful. Here is the second one, which the Resident Evil 2 soundtrack is hands down like the most beautiful soundtrack ever. And the fact that they replaced it in the 2019 remake is disgusting, and it makes me very angry. But thankfully they did have the pre-order bonus where you could have the original soundtrack for the game, which I have never played the Resident Evil 2 remake with the new soundtrack. Like, no, absolutely not. That's blasphemy. But here is the cover. And inside is the police station and the back cover. This one is shaped like, or modeled rather, after the ink ribbon, which is so cool. Love that. And last but absolutely not least is the Code Veronica soundtrack, which the Code Veronica soundtrack is my favorite Resident Evil soundtrack, even though it's very, like, the Resident Evil 2 soundtrack is like just right behind it, but the Code Veronica soundtrack is like, it's so good. Beautiful art on the inside, beautiful art in the back. And this one, because Code Veronica is my favorite game and because it's my favorite soundtrack, I was really intent on getting the first pressing of this vinyl, which was the green one. Isn't it pretty? You can't actually tell that it's green in this lighting, but it's a very like bright green, and it's just so pretty. Like, if you had told me like in 2006 that they were going to release the soundtracks on vinyl, I would not have believed you. But these are, oh my god. Like, just listening to these on vinyl is a very, very intense experience for someone as pathetic as me. Like, instant tears in my eyes. Then the CDs that I have most of the CDs for the main games. Let me flip these. Oh my god. I have the original. Where's the original one? I have this, like, the original remix soundtrack, which is really weird. I do not understand the CD. There's also like a weird orchestra version of the first game as well. I don't know. These are old. I don't think they really had anything better to do in '96 than make weird CDs. Here is the second game. Ooh. I have a third one. The third one, I actually have the American release of it. I don't know why. And I think I actually bought this at a Target, like, which is really weird, but like, I don't know. I don't know why that was being sold at a Target. The Code Veronica soundtrack, which also I have the American release of it. And then I have the original Japanese release of Code Veronica. Again, I have a Haunting Ground thing in here. Here is the Resident Evil 5 soundtrack. This one had a really pretty box set, which it absolutely deserved. The soundtrack for RE5 is awesome. It's beautiful and totally deserved something this like intricate. The Outbreak soundtrack, which is everything. Cool. And even, squeaky. Even the, oh my god, the disc itself is really cool. It has like the virus. And they've got the whole gang on the back. I have Degeneration, which the Degeneration like soundtrack for like the CGI movie is like not that good. So I don't know why I bought this. Probably because Claire was on the cover and she looks beautiful. But again, just beautiful, beautiful artwork on the discs and everything, which we love. This is the Umbrella Chronicles. Has Ada on the cover, which I'm pretty sure is mostly why I bought it. But I mean, the soundtrack for this game isn't that bad. It's got some funky tunes on it. And then Darkseid Chronicles, which, oh my god, the soundtrack for Darkseid Chronicles is like, oh, it's so good. It is so good. I watched like the trailer to. I've talked about the trailer to Darkseid Chronicles like a lot because I'm pathetic, but the trailer, when like it showcased some of the first like music, that like, you know, it was just I watched those on repeat just because of like how beautiful that music was and just how awesome it was. Just so good. And then my last thing for the CDs is this little box set. It is the Sound Chronicle Best Track box, and this is very, very rare. It was rare when I got it, and it's even more rare now. It's basically just a little collection from each game. At the time, does it go up to? It goes up to 4. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And the simplicity of these designs are just like really, really cool, and it makes it feel even like more special. They are very, very cool. I don't think I actually like ever listened to these discs in particular, because like I just thought like that if I put them like, I don't know, in my CD player, they would explode and I would cry. But all very, very cool. We love that. This was always, even as a kid, this little box set was like on my list of like, if the house is on fire, grab this and run. Let's see. I have some weird like DVD stuff, which I think I actually want to get to last, because the DVD that I was talking about at the beginning of this that I used to watch on the eve of my birthday is sort of the the central point of my depression. So I think I want to save that for last. I have these 2 little things, which this I'm pretty sure is bootleg. I don't think it's real. I don't know if this ever existed as like an actual product or anything, but it's just a really cute umbrella necklace, and it's like in this like fancy little box. This one is legit. It is a part of the lighter series that they did a while ago. And it's just a very cool umbrella lighter. Very cool. I don't have any actual lighter fluid in here, because that would be not a good idea, but it's still very cool. It would work if I actually did put fluid in there, but I would not do that. As a kid, though, I got this probably when I was like 13 or something. As a kid, I was just like, ooh, I'm going to have a lighter when I'm an adult, and I'm going to be really cool. And then you grow up and you realize that you really don't need a lighter for like anything unless like you're a smoker. So I never ended up using this, and I never will. Like obviously, as I said, I mostly collect art books and stuff like that. So in terms of figures and stuff, I don't have that many. And a lot of the ones that I do have are still at like my mom's house. So like my childhood home. But some of the ones that I don't have with me are, I had a type 1 and 2 Birkin figure. I had a Hunter from Code Veronica figure. I had a few of the zombie ones from like the 10th anniversary Hot Toys line. I had the Birkin and the Ivy that are included with some of the figures that I do have here, but one of my favorites is, they're all like very dusty because I don't know how to dust my figures, I guess. But one of my favorite ones was the Code Veronica Wesker. He was fun because he had I think he had 2 different heads that you could exchange with, and I actually have no idea where his other heads are, which is very sad. But I was a kid and I used to play with these, so who knows where they ended up. But these were all very cool. They're very detailed, the the details on the back of his outfit and everything, and even in the front, they're very, very cool. I believe his other heads were, maybe he only had one, but I think if he did have 2, one was he didn't have the sunglasses and he had the glowing eyes, and I think the other one was he had his sunglasses on, but you could see his glowing eyes. I don't know. I could just be making that up. But he's fun. I always liked how most of his limbs could actually do things. It's very cool. These are obviously made to play with, which is really cool. And I also have, matching with the Code Veronica Wesker, I have Claire. And she is she's just so pretty. I actually didn't really ever play with this because she was just too pretty. But the detail, again, on her clothing, especially on her vest, you can see sort of the texture that's obviously supposed to be leather. That's really cool. She has a little knife. Actually, I think, was the knife hers? Yeah, the knife was hers. I think Wesker had a gun, but I don't know where that went. Very cool. Again, they move. I don't think she had multiple heads. Oh wait, no, she did, because her head's coming off. I don't remember what the other expressions were on her other heads, but it's really cool. There's even some blood stains and stuff on her pants, which is really cool. And she has this cool Resident Evil stand as well, which fits only her. Wesker does not fit on this little platform. I also have, this was the Hot Toys re-release for Ada. There was another one that was slightly more detailed, but I ended up getting this one. She is also very, very pretty. Her dress is it's not cloth, it's this weird plasticky sort of material, but it's really cool that it moves. No, she doesn't wear panties. She has no panties on. Her little choker thing right here is actually ribbon, which is cool. She came with, I think, a gun and a crossbow. And I know I still have those, but I think I put them in a box somewhere for safekeeping. But only one of her arms moves. It's very cute. She's obviously more of a figure to just sit there and look pretty than she is to play with. These 2 are my oldest ones. I have adorable little Sherry. She's so cute. And Ada as well, who is very busty for some reason. She does not look like that in the game. I don't know why she looks like that here. She also looks very buff too. I love it. But I love that her dress is actually fabric. I think that's really cool. Sherry's is not, and I don't think Claire's was. I used to have the Claire figure, but I know that I lost that over the years. It was, I think it was just her regular RE2 one. There was another RE2 figure with her in her bonus costume, the blue one with the little tank top, and I always wanted that, and that's still on my list of figures that I want to buy one day. But Sherry is adorable, and she came with Birkin. Like I said, I forget which type of Birkin. I think it was just his type 1, because I remember the eyeball. But Sherry is, oddly enough, this tiny little figure. She is actually worth so much money. Boxed, I think boxed, she goes for $150. Insane. Like, I mean, I don't regret ever opening her because I had a lot of fun with her and I got to play with her a lot. But like, if I did own a boxed version of this figure, I would like be very happy because I just think that would be really cool. But she's cute. She doesn't really do much. She moves her arms, but her legs don't move. She's still absolutely adorable. And Ada came with an Ivy, I believe. And I never played with the Ivy growing up, but I do know it's in a box somewhere. Ada moves actually all of her limbs, and actually her feet move as well, which is really cute. I actually have seen the Leon, like the corresponding Leon with for her. I've seen him actually at some like comic stores and even at cons at some vendors. I don't think he's actually that expensive, even boxed. But Ada is, I don't think she's worth as much as the Sherry Birkin one. But I'm pretty sure she goes like for at least $80 boxed, which is really cool. Growing up, I always loved that there was an Ada figure because, like, I mean, growing up, no one liked Ada. So the fact that, like, there was a little figure was, like, really fun and just cool for a character that was very, like, you know, hated. And I also have a Funko of Leon, which one of my coworkers gave me for a Secret Santa a few years ago. And I know there are a few other Funko Resident Evil characters, I think. So anyway, I don't know. I don't collect Funkos, but I think he's adorable. And I love that my coworker gave like him to me because I just thought that was so cute and so sweet. He's adorable. Look at him. All right. Last but absolutely not least, there is my DVD collection. And some of these aren't interesting. Like, it's just, you know, Degeneration and Damnation and all those. But they're still very fun. It is very interesting and funny because, you know, Ada is so very well loved now, and I'll get into that in a bit. But it's very funny to live in a world now where people love Ada because she was very hated for a very long time. But more on that in a second. So my little DVD collections are mostly weird, like non-interactive DVDs, which a lot of these were either like included in a magazine or included in a pre-order, and basically they were just sort of like interactive demos of the like upcoming games. And this Resident Evil 0 one, I actually haven't watched this in a very, very long time, and I might actually pop it in after I'm done with this because it probably has some really like cool footage of stuff that didn't make it into the final game. But it's very, very cool. I don't think this is worth a lot of money, but it's still probably pretty rare. I have this is not like special at all, but it is special to me. For some reason, I have a CDR of fan fictions, which I know are all Resident Evil fan fictions. I used to save all like my favorite fan fictions to like CDRs because I didn't trust them on floppy disks. But I actually might also put this in and see what's on there because I'm sure there's some gems. This is the Resident Evil 4 non-interactive DVD, which includes a lot of footage of the beta RE4, so like the Fog version and the Hookman versions of that. This was really exciting because I purposely bought this on eBay because I wanted to see like that stuff, but there were 3 different discs that you could possibly get, and I was like, please, for the love of God, let me get Ada. And I did end up getting Ada, so we love that. Again, this was like one of those things I was only able to like watch once because it was a different region, so I was only able to like put it in my computer once. But this stuff, the content that is on this DVD is like on YouTube everywhere, so that's cool. And last but not least, I have the Wesker Report DVD. So I have 3 different versions of this, which I will get to in a bit about why. But this DVD was included in, I believe, the pre-order of Code Veronica when Code Veronica was ported to the PlayStation 2. And when they ported it to the PlayStation 2, it included sort of like an extended cut of like the ending, and it had more cutscenes of Wesker in it and everything. And this DVD was basically sort of a summary of all the games prior to Code Veronica, but from Wesker's point of view. It was really cool because, like, you know, his voice actor in Code Veronica voiced this. So that was really cool. And it was just, you know, it's from Wesker's point of view. It sort of goes into his goals and like what he wanted from everyone. And most infamously, it ends with him revealing that he has Sherry in his custody. And obviously, you know, at the time, that was something that like made everyone's like head explode, because that was like the big reveal of like Sherry's fate, was that Wesker had her. And, you know, this DVD, like literally, like that's the last line in the DVD. Like, it's like, you know, obviously the cliffhanger, and it's obviously what is pushing the series forward, is the fact that Wesker has Sherry, and like we don't know what is going to become of that. So I have the very original that came with the game, and then I also have the I think this was like the Australian release, and I literally just wanted this because like it was like an actual like DVD, and I thought that was really cool. But same exact content as this one. So this was the DVD that I would watch every single night before my birthday for like 5 years. And you know, like in 2000, in 2001, 2002, like, you know, you're like, you know, it's kind of pre-internet being like a big thing. And so like, you know, for me, like watching that, it was like, ooh, like this is like a Resident Evil movie, even though it's like 5 minutes long. And it was just like really special to me. And it was like a huge reason why I was like so excited for, you know, the future of the series. And, you know, I loved Wesker. I thought he was a great villain. And obviously, well, hi. Okay, bye. Obviously, growing up, you know, I loved Sherry. Sherry was always like my favorite character. And a lot of why I loved Sherry was because of the, you know, the buildup of like, oh my God, well, Wesker has her. That obviously like is implying that there's something special about Sherry. You know, she spends RE2 getting infected with the G virus, and obviously it's going to still be in her body. She probably has like, you know, when Wesker leaves the series, Sherry is going to enter the series as the main villain. And like, obviously that was the assumption. Obviously that was the goal. Obviously that was the big intention of, you know, the directors and the writers. So this little like 5-minute DVD is like, you know, what like made so many fans so excited for Resident Evil 4, and why, like, you know, Resident Evil 4 was going to be like this huge deal. And we were so excited because, you know, we knew Leon was in it, and like we knew that it was like going to be about Leon post Raccoon City, and we're all so excited about it. And at that time, you know, Resident Evil 4 was in its, I think, the fog version of it, or the Hookman. I don't really remember, but you know, we were really excited, and it was like Leon infiltrating Umbrella, and like he's gonna rescue Sherry, and it's gonna be like so cool. And then obviously that did not happen, and obviously we got the Resident Evil 4 that we got, and it was not what anyone wanted, which is very upsetting. And it's been 15 plus years since Resident Evil 4 came out, and I can kind of put that sorrow and grief, like I can kind of put it away at this point, but I will never put away my grief about the Sherry stuff. And what broke me as a, God, how old was I? I was like 20 maybe. They re-released the Wesker Report right before Resident Evil 5 came out, and they, no one thought anything of it. They were like, oh, like they're re-releasing it because obviously Resident Evil 5 is going to be when Sherry comes back. Like, this is like, this is it. This is happening. It's finally happening. Wesker's going to come back. Sherry's going to come back. They're re-releasing the Wesker Report, so people will be aware of the fact that Wesker has her. So they re-released the Wesker Report in this weird anniversary DVD thing, and it comes with a bunch of weird stuff. It comes with like a trailer for Resident Evil 5. It comes with like some sort of preview for Devil May Cry. A bunch of other weird stuff. But it has, at the very end, it has the Wesker Report on it. And it's the same Wesker Report that, like, obviously came out like 8 years prior. But at the very end, they edit it and they cut out the part about Wesker having Sherry. So not only do they cut it out, it just ends very abruptly and weirdly, and it's edited very badly, but that's cut out. And that confuses a lot of people, obviously, because, why? And it obviously wasn't an error, because like we still get the credits, and attached to Wesker's report was like a trailer for Code Veronica, and the trailer was still there. But so yeah, there was that, and that happened. And then Resident Evil 5 came out, and obviously Sherry was not in it. Obviously Wesker died. And it just became very obvious that Capcom had retconned Sherry being in Wesker's custody. And that, like, still makes me want to die inside. Like, it still affects me in, like, the most unhealthy way. And, like, I was just depressed out of my mind, like, during that time. And like that was definitely the point in my life that like I realized, wow, like this obsession that I have with this series is very unhealthy. And two, like I probably should not have this much emotional investment in something that is not real. But here I am today with just as much investment, and yeah, being pathetic about it. But the level to which like that like broke my heart was just like insane. I mean, Sherry was my favorite character. I was so excited about the prospect of her becoming, the new villain of the series and taking over Wesker's role, and just seeing the relationship between Wesker and Sherry be this complicated sort of tragic thing that we all wanted it to be. And the tragedy of Sherry in and of herself and everything that she's been through, and no longer feeling an attachment to Claire or to Leon, to anyone, and siding with the villains instead, was just something that we all wanted. And it was something that made so much sense. And, you know, if you look at the original Resident Evil 2 game, it's obvious that Sherry was a character who was meant to carry so much weight for the series. And I get really sad thinking about, you know, the Sherry that we do have now in Resident Evil 6, because, you know, obviously we got Sherry back, and that was something that was very exciting for those of us who waited. God, 11 years for Sherry to come back, and we finally did, but, you know, it wasn't the Sherry that we wanted. It wasn't the storyline that we wanted, and it certainly wasn't the situation that we wanted, considering Sherry plays a huge, like a secondary role to Jake in Resident Evil 6. Like, no one liked that. And, you know, I've talked about it before. I think Jake is the absolute worst character in the Resident Evil series. Like, I hate Jake so much. But what's funny about Jake is that, you know, Jake was obviously invented to appease Wesker fanboys, and, you know, obviously he was like this sort of really rushed, poorly decided character that they were going to include. It's like, oh, the Wesker's son. Wow, Wesker had a son. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, the fanboys will love it. And, you know, that was sort of Capcom's like idea of how to fix killing Wesker, because so many people were upset that Wesker died, which did not make sense because obviously he was going to die. But so, you know, they gave us Wesker's son, but they put Wesker's son in this big role, the spotlight next to Sherry, and no one wanted that. Like, people wanted Sherry, they didn't want Jake. And despite the fact that Jake was, you know, created to appease Wesker fanboys, I have never met a Wesker fanboy who likes Jake. Like, people hate Jake, and rightfully so. And the only people that really like Jake, you know, are like fangirls. And this, the target audience so badly that it's almost funny. And like, I do laugh about it, but it's like I have to laugh about it, otherwise I will cry about it. Because just the fact that the scenario in RE6 is called Jake's scenario and it's not called Sherry's scenario. Oh my God. My rage is so much. Like, I'm actually like shaking talking about this. That's how like pathetic I am. But yeah. So with all of that said, you know, it's very sad to have spent so much of my life loving Resident Evil as much as I have, just to slowly watch it fall apart piece by piece, game by game. And, you know, obviously the series kind of started to fall apart when Resident Evil 4 came out, and that is what it is. And like I said earlier, I've kind of like tucked that away into its own thing. And, you know, I don't like Resident Evil 4, but Resident Evil 4 is what it is. And, you know, I can think about Resident Evil 4 without getting angry. But, you know, as the series had moved forward, there was so much that, you know, Capcom wanted to do, and there was so much that they got distracted by doing because they constantly wanted to reinvent themselves. And obviously they did that with Resident Evil 4 and were successful, but they thought that they could do that again with Resident Evil 5, and Resident Evil 5 wasn't as successful, which is unfortunate because Resident Evil 5 actually is a very good game. And I genuinely like Resident Evil 5. I think it's a solid game in terms of story, in terms of characters. I think it does an amazing job concluding a lot of character storylines. You know, it wasn't, you know, what I would have written for the characters, but it is what it is, and it does a good job concluding those stories. And, the unfortunate part about that is that, we could have had Resident Evil 5 be Chris's like ending. We could have had it be Jill's ending and everything. And like it would have been fine, but then they brought Chris back in Resident Evil 6, and then they obviously brought him back in 7, and then he's coming in hot again in Resident Evil 8, and it's just like, stop. Please stop. Like, and I love Chris. Chris is my favorite male protagonist in the series. I think he's awesome. But, I would have been happy if Resident Evil 5 had been his ending, and I also would have been happy if Resident Evil 6 had been his ending with them killing Chris. And that would have broken my heart because I love Chris. I do. I love him, but I would have liked to see him die because I think it would have been a really tragic, sad ending to his story. And the way that, Resident Evil 6 builds up this damaged hero, this man who's traumatized and like just has been beaten down so many times. If they had killed him at the end of Resident Evil 6 instead of killing Piers, we would have gotten an amazing story that allowed like, a new generation to blossom from Chris's storyline, and they could have used Piers as sort of the new Chris. And that would have been okay. And that would have been something that a lot of fans would have really liked, because not only was Piers a great character, his relationship with Chris was so good and so complicated and sad and tragic. And it was just something that really, it's obvious that that is what they were going for. And, everyone knows that Chris was originally supposed to die in RE6, and they decided not to kill him. And it's just very obvious when you play the game that, Piers dying at the end instead of Chris was sort of like this last minute marketing decision, because they knew that Chris was still marketable and was still sellable. Likewise, Ada should have also died in RE6. And that obviously I would have bawled my eyes out because I love Ada with all my heart, but Ada is also a character who does need an ending and should have gotten that ending in that game. Like, I mean, there's so much opportunity in RE6 to sort of conclude storylines, but they don't. And I have endless amounts of issues with Resident Evil 6, and I don't like Resident Evil 6, but if they had concluded Ada's storyline, if they had concluded Chris's storyline, I would have felt at least okay with what Resident Evil 6 was. And we're going on to 25 years of the series existing, and we still don't have any major character deaths in the series except for Wesker. Like, why isn't Chris dead? Why isn't Ada dead? Why isn't Jill dead? In order for the series to be realistic, you need to have those character deaths. And, otherwise, you have fans who are just racking their brains over well, why the fuck is Ethan a character? And why is he a character when Chris is over here? It's if Chris was dead, at least there would be that. At least there would be sort of that peace of mind of okay, well, Chris is dead, so here is this new character, Ethan. He's going to be our new protagonist. Woo. And for me personally, that still wouldn't have changed anything, because I don't like Ethan and I don't care about Ethan. But, at least that would have made sense for the sort of the reboot that they want to do. But and instead we're getting this weird story with Chris, and obviously no one really knows what it is, and we don't know whether Chris is going to be evil. We don't know if this is a Chris clone. We don't know what it is, but I also just don't really care. And I say that in sort of a way that I do care, because I'm never going to be able to care. But God, I wish I didn't. It's just so frustrating to love something so much and just see it burning. And it's complicated too, sort of, with how the series insists on still existing and doing these remakes that are unnecessary and inferior and just not good. And you have these like this desperate attempt from Capcom to keep Resident Evil relevant. Wow, it could have just ended and been okay. And I don't want this to sort of become my rant over the remakes and how much I don't like them, but obviously the remakes are bringing in like new fans, and it also kind of adds to sort of the confusion of what Resident Evil is doing with Resident Evil 8, because a lot of new fans came to the series with the Resident Evil 2 remake, and obviously those new fans only know a handful of characters, and one of those characters isn't Chris, but Chris is getting the spotlight in Resident Evil 8, and it's like, but no one actually cares. Your old fans don't care because they're tired and they're hurt and they're just over it, and your new fans don't care because they don't even know who Chris is. So that's very weird to me. And I will obviously play the 8th game, and I will take from it what I will, but I know that I won't really enjoy it because I didn't enjoy Resident Evil 7. It's okay that I don't enjoy those games because the series doesn't cater to my every need and desire, but it's just frustrating. One of the things that always kind of comes to mind is when Resident Evil 7 came out in, oh God, when was that? 2017? Yeah, 2017. And they did the escape room, the Resident Evil escape room. It was so cool to have that experience in real life and be able to experience some sort of escape room with Resident Evil. But the whole thing was such an identity clusterfuck. It was a promotion for Resident Evil 7, but the escape room was not modeled after Resident Evil 7, but it was advertised as being modeled after Resident Evil 7, and then the lobby kind of was Resident Evil 7, but not really, because then you went into the other room and then it was the STARS office, and it was just weird. And for me personally, when I went to do it, I went to the one in Boston, and I was really excited about it, and I dressed up as Sherry, and I was like, ooh, and I was like a loser. And I went, and it would have been much more fun if I went with friends, but I didn't. And I remember going into the escape room in the little waiting area, and the other people that had signed up for the time that I signed up for, they were all these I don't want to sound mean, but they were all these sort of older geeky guys who were the kind of guys that you don't really want to talk to at a convention. And I was in my fucking Sherry outfit. I was in this schoolgirl outfit, and I just remember really wanting to die. And they were all looking at me, and then one of them was like, so are you dressed up? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, are you a character? And I didn't know if he thought that I worked for the escape room or something, but I was like, yeah, I'm Sherry. And they all looked at each other obviously not knowing who Sherry was, and I just like wanted to die. It was so awkward, and because like these were the people that like you had to work with in the escape room, like I didn't beat the escape room because like I was just like me, little Sherry, surrounded by like these like weird like normie guys, and I couldn't concentrate because I was just like I want to die, and I think they felt awkward too, and it was just like it was so bad. It was so bad. It was such a weird experience, and I was really sad that, you know, I something I had been so excited about for that like just ended up being such a shit show. And you know, I wish that they were doing that again for Resident Evil 8, but obviously, you know, COVID and everything, that's not something that could happen. But maybe in the future there'll be like another Resident Evil escape room thing, and I can go with actual friends that I have now who like Resident Evil, and we can all dress up and it won't be awkward. um, but yeah. That was sort of going on a tangent there, but going back to the Ada thing, and you know, Ada now is such a humongous like sort of face of Resident Evil, which is awesome because Ada deserves it. And also, you know, the creator of Resident Evil, like his favorite character has always been Ada. And when he obviously wrote and invented Ada in like 98 for the original RE2, he obviously had every intention of making her a huge part of the story. And Ada is obviously based off of a very tragic character to begin with. She's based off of La Femme Nikita, and a lot of her backstory is obviously modeled after that character in those films. And moving forward with Ada, it was obvious that, you know, she always was supposed to have this very tragic role of, you know, being in love with like the hero, even though like she's like the bad guy. And when Ada existed in like 98 and everything, like she was not a very well liked character. She was very, very, very hated. And it's funny because I don't think people really remember that. When she was reintroduced in Resident Evil 4, that's obviously when her popularity like became a thing. And I remember being really mad about that in that time because I was like, "Ooh, I liked Ada first. Ew, I'm special." But like I'm over that now because I'm not 14 years old. But I love that Ada is so popular because she deserves it and she's an awesome character. But it's also weird to live in a world now where Ada is so popular, and it's very similar to Carlos being popular. Like it's weird to live in a world where Carlos is a liked character because I don't think I ever met anyone else who actually liked Carlos growing up. Like I always liked Carlos because like, you know, he was like a cool goofy guy, and I always kind of liked those sort of side characters in Resident Evil who no one else liked, i.e. Steve. Anyone who knows me knows that like I'm like the president of like the Steve Burnside fan club. But, you know, I always liked Carlos and everyone hated Carlos, and Ada and Carlos were both very hated characters. And, you know, growing up, a lot of what I saw in the Resident Evil community was a lot of like racism toward them. Like anyone talking about them usually was using their race as some sort of like justification for their hate. And like that was always incredibly gross to read growing up. And, you know, part of the reason why I liked Carlos was like the fact that like he was Latino, and I was just like, that's cool. Like, wow, there's like an actual like Latino character in Resident Evil. Like that's really awesome. But everyone hated him. Everyone hated Ada. And when Ada returned in Resident Evil 4, it was sort of like this transformation into like, oh my god, like Ada, beautiful Ada, so hot, we love Ada. And like, same. But it's very telling of how fickle people are and how sort of superficial people are toward, video game characters and female characters, especially in video games, and especially like female Asian characters in video games, because you have Ada in 98 who isn't as sort of like bombshell, seductive, mysterious as like she kind of is like painted up to be in Resident Evil 4. And it's like, so that sort of like racism became like fetishizing her. And watching that transformation as a young kid was very weird. And thankfully we live in a much different time now in terms of people with representation in video games. And I've never seen anything about that with Ada in the past like 10 years. Like, thank God. Like, when people talk about Ada, like, it's never anything like that. It's usually praise of her, being an Asian American character in a video game, her being such a large role in a cast who is predominantly white in the series. And I kind of saw the same thing with Carlos, was like people being really excited that there was a Latino guy in a video game, and he was like just very well loved. And so seeing that was really cool. But again, it's just really weird to live in a world where Carlos is like loved and people are simping after Carlos, when it's like, no one liked him in 1999, but okay. It's fine. It's just weird. And I think about that a lot with Steve, and everyone fucking hated Steve and still hates Steve. And Steve is Steve is like my second favorite character in the entire series. And the thought of like the fact of like the possibility, and I don't like want to say this because like saying it like hurts me, but if Code Veronica ever got remade, which I would first of all probably have a panic attack and like cry. But if Code Veronica ever got remade, the fact that people would probably like love Steve, like I don't know where to put that in my head. Because I've spent like my entire life defending Steve, and like to have him like become like a loved character, like I don't think I'd be able to like handle that. I'd probably have to go back to therapy. Like it's weird to think that. And I mean, hopefully that's just not something that I ever have to deal with, because hopefully Code Veronica never gets remade. It doesn't need to be remade. It's perfect the way it is. But then again, Resident Evil 2 didn't need to be remade, so whatever. Again, I don't want this to become a rant about the remakes, because that's not what I wanted. I wanted this to make Resident Evil. It's one of those things where, like, because I love it so much, it's one of those things that's like I almost don't want to talk about. So it's like when people bring up Resident Evil, I just kind of get quiet, because it's like, well, first of all, you don't want to open that Pandora's box of very intense emotions that are inside of me for Resident Evil. But also, too, it's just like I almost don't want to talk about Resident Evil, because it makes me really sad. Like, it makes me so sad to talk about Resident Evil, because it's very hard to find like-minded people who like have experienced the same like trauma that I have with the series. And and that's fine, you know. It's like, you know, I think it's great that Resident Evil still is as popular as it is, and I think it's cool that people are like discovering Resident Evil, but it's just like it's hard to listen to people talk about it sometimes, because it's like, okay, but you weren't there. You don't know the trauma. You don't know the big Sherry story. You don't know the pain that we all went through with Resident Evil 4, and how we didn't get the version of Resident Evil 4 that we all wanted. But, you know, when I do get to talk about it, and I get to talk to people who I know like care, it's nice. And thankfully, you know, I do have a lot of like friends from, you know, that time period who I still talk to and who I'm still very, very close with, and that's nice. Um, but it's like, you know, they've moved on to other things, and like that's fine. So it's like I sometimes I just feel like I'm like the only one like left in this sort of trauma of like something I haven't gotten over and something I probably never will get over. But, you know, it is what it is, and I can't change that, and I can't change what Capcom has done to Resident Evil in the past 5 years. Evil 2 remake, and I get as sad as I do. It's not so much like sadness of like, you know, the fact that it's like an inferior game to the original. It's like I'm sad because it's like, you know, these people aren't getting, you know, what I got. You know, the Resident Evil 2 remake is just like such a sloppy attempt at recreating a game that already was perfect. Like, Resident Evil 2 is a perfect game, and like you're remaking it into something that is inferior, something that is incomplete, and something that's just sort of so much less polished. So it's like when people play that, it's like I'm sad. I'm sad that that's their like experience, you know, that they're not getting what I got, which was like this complete superficial like upgrade. And who cares about that? You know, it's like so many people when I tell them that I don't want and it's like, no, I don't want to see that. I don't need that. What I need is Code Veronica the way that it was originally. Like, that's what I need. Like, you know, I don't need a film adaptation of Resident Evil. I don't need a Netflix series of Resident Evil. I don't need these remakes of Resident Evil. I just I need the series to complete itself and to finish and to wrap up stories that I have spent more than half my life obsessing over, you know. But like I said, I can't tell Capcom what to do, so whatever. Um, Anyway, Resident Evil 8 will come out, and I will probably cry because I'll be upset, but then I will just turn it off and play Code Veronica and be happy. But I am glad that I was able to sort of sit down and, you know, show off things that I show people. I don't like normally like show people my collection because, one, it seems like a weird like flex, and like that's like not like what I'm trying to do. But it's also, you know, for me at least, like showing off like a collection is something like it's like showing off a part of myself. So like it does feel very like vulnerable, you know. It's like the fact that like I can, you know, sit down and like talk about why, like, you know, I would read this book like this growing up is like very like, you know, it's very vulnerable, and it's very like telling of the person that I was and why Resident Evil was so important to me. I mean, not only was Resident Evil something that helped me get through like a terrible time in my life of, some school and bullying and just like really like terrible family situations, like it was just like always like that constant comfort, and it helped me escape, and it helped me meet people online who loved the series too. And more than anything, like it also helped me create. I created so much content for Resident Evil growing up, and I know that's also a huge part of why I love Sherry as much as I do. It's because like I spent so much time growing up like writing Sherry, role playing as Sherry, drawing Sherry, doing all this stuff with the character. And it's like she became like my special like angel. And it's like people always talk about like their comfort character and everything, and like my comfort character is Sherry. Like she is my entire being, like just compressed into one character. She like literally is like just like mine. And I always like joke and say that like Sherry's mine and I own the rights to Sherry, and it's like it's like I'm joking, but also like she's like my baby. Like I love her so much, and she's my favorite character of anything ever, like in the world, like movie, book, video game, comic, series, anything. Like Sherry will always be number one because she's just that special to me. And I know that a lot of people understand that, which is nice. It's like I can say that without feeling insane, because everyone has that one character who has like affected them as profoundly as Sherry affected me. And it's unfortunate that like I didn't get the Sherry that I wanted, that I probably never will, and I don't know if we ever will see Sherry again. If we do, I will be very, very happy. I would love to see her in like a Revelations 3 sort of scenario. That would be really cool. I don't really know where the future of the series is in terms of the main series. Like, I don't know what Resident Evil 9 will be, but I very much doubt it will be anything of Sherry. And if it is, then I will eat my shoe. But, yeah. I suppose that is all that I have to say. Thank you to anyone who came and popped in and watched me rant sadly about Resident Evil and talk about the series. On one last note, I did want to, promote one thing. My coworker actually gave me this shirt for Secret Santa this past year, which is really cute. I like that people usually give me Resident Evil stuff, but I wanted to make sure that I mentioned the website that this t-shirt came from, because it is it's an independent artist. Let's see, and he sent me the link to it. It's mostly all just sort of 90s video games, which is really cool. The website is espionagevr.com, and they have a lot of really cute shirts, all mostly old nostalgic video games. Like they have Silent Hill, and they have Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy, so that's really cool. So if you like this shirt, you can go buy one yourself. All right, that is all. Again, thank you to anyone who popped in. Especially shout out to Hazel for supporting me in all of my pathetic endeavors in life. I appreciate and love you so much. I want to eventually start to do more things like this, just talking about like, Resident Evil and other stuff. I don't know if I will continue to do it on YouTube or if I will eventually finally utilize my Twitch channel. But my fiance bought me a lot of cool stuff for my birthday to try and encourage me to do some Twitch stuff. And my mom also got me something as well. So that's really, really kind of them. I will eventually post about, anything that I do in the future with like either streaming or anything. But